So I'm just going to have a word with you first of all for yeah, for 5 minutes.
Right, well, since it's not that loud, this microphone, I'll just talk normally because that's what I'm best at. Some information that we've come across recently, it's not my information, great researchers have been looking and digging and finding this out. This is to do with council tax. We found out why they're sending people to prison via council tax. One of the reasons they're using, amongst others, is when you go to court, if you fill out the form beforehand, that the council staff lovingly fill out for you, it's actually a liability order. You're actually giving them the details for your own liability order. Then they're saying you didn't turn up in court, so they're sending you to prison for contempt of court. Way round that, and the chap that found this out is actually sat over there. If he wants to make himself known, I'm sure he will do. One of the ways around that is go to court, attend court, and then ask to have it moved to the county court. Their court is a private court, moved to the county court, a court of record, you're laughing. Now, I'm sure if you can't figure out why, the next part I will do. They will try, and I've no doubt they will come up with some excuses as to why they won't let you go, but you've got to push it and go for it. If they don't let you go, that's great. Here's what you do next. You call your first witness. Anybody know who your first witness is going to be?
The prosecutor!
Yes, these already knew. Yeah, you call the prosecutor to the stand. He's then got to go on the stand, under oath, tell the truth. And you can have a list of questions you want to ask him. But I'm fairly sure that he won't go on the stand, because if he does, and he lies and commits perjury, he goes to jail. So what is most likely going to happen is going to refuse to get on the stand. At that point, you direct the magistrates to discharge the case, because there's nothing to answer, because their key witness refusing to testify. No, that's just a quick, but that's all I'm here for, and I hope everything's sorted down here by then, but thanks for that.
Thanks very much, Mark. That was brilliant. Just a technical adjustment.
Mark, can I unplug your extension just
All right, we're all set. A big hand for Kevin.
Can everybody hear me okay?
You'll have to shout, Kevin.
Yeah, I won't use the mic, I'll shout, is that okay? My name's Kevin, known as Kevin Mark in Facebook and other things. Well, really, I'm here today because I've had some breaking news that we found out probably about 4 days ago. Where I am with the gas, you probably see me do a video with Mark. There was another video placed last week where I was in Crewe in Cheshire at South Magistrates Court for a warrant. So I want to go through the gas where I am at the moment. The bank gyro credit slips, which I'll talk about. This is very important. You must need to know this, even if you're in the part of the bank's response, how you pay with the bills of exchange. So I'll go very, very briefly into the bills of exchange. Then I'll show you some examples. Can you hear me in the back? Yeah. Thank you. I'll go through some examples of how I've paid it. There's 3 cases going on at the moment. I can't delve into one of the cases because it's that close, it's going into county court. Okay, so I can't mention any names, what court or what provider, what power supply. It's going to be the one of the power companies. But basically where I've been, very quickly, I had an E.ON electricity bill 2 years ago, and they took quite a lot of money out of my account without giving me formal notice, and they broke the mandate agreement. So all the knowledge that I've gained, and I've done a lot of research, I've actually clawed that back, which was quite a lot of money. And how the clawback works, they have 2 weeks to come to me. That's for anybody can do this. They have 2 weeks to come to me. If you did it, they would come to you. After that 2 weeks, they then go to the bank. And the bank told me, ignore all mail or correspondence. Well, after the month elapsed, they heard nothing from E.ON either. Here? Yeah. So they heard nothing from E.ON either. So that money's now sitting in my account. So I was at Crewe last week, came back, on a high, and then I was on a low when I got home because now I had a nice letter from Eon that says I have to pay that money. So I paid with the bills of exchange. I've also done that with the water. I've just done that with the water. And the thing is, at the moment, the group that I'm with, it's a small group. There's only about 5 of us, and we do conference calls on Skype. And we're trying to test and poke and see where we can get, what door we can get in. At the moment, obviously, the goal is to get them into county court, because if we get into county court, they're finished. So I've set my bills of exchange up, and I'll show you how to do it. It's very important as well when you do it, you don't pay any gas bill, utility bill on a promissory note. I'll explain that. That comes under the Consumer Credit Act, and I'll show you through that. So where we are at the moment, we went into court last week, and the warrant was withdrawn as soon as we walked in the court. I think they knew that we was going. There was about 5 of us there. We've got 2 witnesses over there that came. They came from Stoke, which was nice for support. And we asked why the warrant was withdrawn, and he just said he probably paid for it. Well, the guy that we was representing had paid for it through the bills of exchange. So previous to that, he got a letter, and this was British Gas, you know, looking after your world, and they said they don't accept promissory notes, and they don't accept bills of exchange. You are gleaming information off the internet and using debt avoidance techniques. So he replied back and saying, obviously, you haven't got a concept in the bills of exchange, because if you're saying you don't accept that, how are you, because you're doing bills of exchange every day, how are we supposed to pay with sterling cash? Because that's how commerce works. So, and to put you on record as well, a promissory note is a form of a bill of exchange. Through Lord Denning, you treat it as cash. However, we are not paying through a promissory note, we're paying through the bills of exchange and dismissing it straight away through transfer by endorsement. So I'll show you about that as well. So there's 3 cases going on at the moment, and our goal is to get it into county court. And you probably think why, but that's the jurisdiction we need to be in. And it's all down to the warrants. When they get a warrant, it goes under the 1954 Gas Act, and that is basically saying that your gas supply is not safe. So they're applying for a warrant of entry. But their real intention is to fit a prepaid meter. So I did one case down south, and I got the warrant throughout, and there was a sergeant, and I actually spoke over the phone, and the sergeant withdrew. However, he was still going to put the door in with a ram, and I just put him on notice that if he did, he would be committing criminal damage and aggravated trespass. He withdrew, and on the Monday 2 more warrants came, which we didn't know about, and they stopped at that. But you've probably seen the video when we had the High Court injunction at Queen's Bench. That went quite, but unfortunately the injunction was dropped. So that was a bit of a shame, that was, but that was an ideal situation that we needed to be. So they need a gas warrant for 1954, and then they come in, and that's what they're saying, your gas supply is not safe. So if you show the gas safe certificate, that knocks the 1954 Gas Act out the window straight away, because now you've showed proof that your gas supply is safe, which is what we did last week. We showed the gas agent, but he didn't want to see it. We produced it. He said he's not interested, he's not bothered, so we served him a notice, basically saying that if he carries on doing this and applying for warrants now in the foreseeable future, that's him or any other gas agent, he's now committing fraud under the penalty of perjury. Well, they've applied for another warrant, and I'm back at court again next Friday in Crewe, South Cheshire, and this time we're going into court because it's now harassment under the penalty of Protection from Harassment Act 1997. So basically a bill of exchange is how it works is it's quite an in-depth document. The rule is if you take something away from the man always has to be compensated. So if you go down the shop and you buy some products, you're taking products from that man, you have to compensate him, so you pay him with money. And that's how it works. So you do it day in, day out. When you go to a restaurant, you don't ask for the invoice, you ask for the bill. And that's in the bill of exchange. So if you can get that concept right, You've just got to grasp that it's already paid for. Your gas, water and electricity is already paid for because we are the creditors and it's the corporate banks that give us that credit, but I'll explain that as we go. If you've got any questions, just fire away. Yeah, on a Virgin account, BT, Sky, you cannot do it. Okay. And this is very important now. You've seen the gyro slips, haven't you, on the bottom of bills? You've got the bank gyro credit, and that's sent from a company to somebody to pay. And the only way you can pay that is with cash or cheque. Okay? And I'll show you the example as it comes up. So that would be done in a situation of like your BT account, Virgin, and stuff like that. So when you go onto the joint gyro, this is the important one, joint gyro credit slip. That is a negotiable instrument. That is issued from the corporate banks to us for your energy, and I'll show you that. Right. The top one is a bank gyro credit slip. I'll come to the left. The person who it's for, who was issuing it, was capital one. Okay, that's addressed to whoever your address is. And the company where the bank will be going to is HSBC. That's whoever that company is using on that particular bank. Then you fill in what you need to fill in on value, and you pay it over the post office with cash or cheque. The bottom one is what is applicable to us. That is a joint gyro credit slip. On the left is the actual corporate bank. On this one, it's Santander. It could be whoever, Royal Bank of Scotland, whoever it is, that is the corporate bank. When we say we got electricity and gas is paid for, when they issue that, it's the corporate bank that issue it, not E.ON, Empower, British Gas, or whoever. It's the corporate bank that issue us this joint gyro credit slip. That is a negotiable instrument. Never pay that on a promissory note, never pay that on acceptance of value. That's a must. Get thrown out. There's a case that I was brought to tonight. You paid with acceptance of value. It's on a no-win. So how it works, and you also have trans-cash, which is transfer cash. So the corporate bank issue that joint gyro credit slip to me. I then go to the post office. If I was to pay it, I would go to the post office, hand over my money to the clerk or whoever behind the post office, and pay with cash. He would scan this. That barcode there is your account. So when that's scanned, that zeroes back your credit. Okay? But at the same time, you're paying in with cash, so they're getting paid as well. And on the bottom right, which is not on here, you probably can't see. I think that's Barclays, but it says clearing bank facility. Key word, clearing bank facility. So this will then go to there, and it's cleared en masse. Think like mortgages when they securitize it. This is what they do here. Then this company, this bank, then pay E.ON, whoever it is. So that's a joint gyro credit slip. Big difference. And people probably think, oh, accepted for value promissory notes or bill of exchange, you cannot do it on this. Okay, so everybody okay
Can I ask
on
a question regarding that? I mean, so how do you go about putting that in credit? Because I remember each time I was at E.ON before, and it hasn't panned out of work. So how...
For a bill of exchange?
Yeah, so
I'll show you now.
Oh, okay,
Yeah?
thank you.
So if you don't know and you just go to the post office and pay it, that's how it would work. But if you clued up a bit, and you can do it for bills of exchange, I'll show you an example. I'll just go back on this, on the Consumer Credit Act as well. Part of what we do with the bills of exchange, we use the Consumer Credit Act 1974, section 123. the key one for us is paragraph 5. But that explains in that section, and I'll read it, why we can't use promissory notes and why we can't use accepted for value. We can only use a bill of exchange by transfer of endorsement. Okay? So at the top, there's one line here that blows it all out of the water. That's for everybody. But we have yet got to get into county court to prove it. But if it got before a district judge, it would award in our favour, because when you read an act and I read an act, we both would interpret that act differently. There's only one person that can interpret the act correctly, and that's the judge. Okay? But it's line 5. This section does not apply where the regulated agreement is non-commercial. You're non-commercial. That applies to factories, businesses that create commerce. It's part of commerce, that's how it works. Anybody that's using the natural resources to produce products for profit, they are now liable because they're using our resources, which was given to us, because we are the creditors. Okay? So it's for a non-commercial agreement. And when you look at the act, you have to look what's not in there. Not what's there, what's not there is the giveaway. It basically says, creditor or owner shall not negotiate an instrument other than a bank note or a cheque in discharge of any payable. And then you've got A, by the debtor or hirer under a regulated agreement, or we're not regulated, or B, by any person as surely in relation to the agreement. I don't know if you can read that as well. The creditor or owner shall not negotiate a cheque taken by him in discharge of a sum payable as mentioned in subsection 1, except to a banker. So this is why I say you cannot use a promissory note, because it's only the companies that can produce a promissory note to a bank. And that's purely for the fact that when they do their accounts for their business, and if they're running behind, they will issue a promissory note to the bank that they have a promise to pay at a given time and a given day. That's why it's applicable to that. But when you come down to section 4, a person, that's us, takes a negotiable instrument, which is the credit slip, I'll show you, as security for the discharge of a sum, in the sum as it is intended to be paid, which is a negotiable instrument under the bills of exchange, in some other way, and the negotiable instrument is to be presented, which I'll show you, for payment only for the sum that's paid in that way. Do you understand that? Okay? And then it's number 5. It's not for a non-commercial agreement, doesn't apply. So it doesn't apply to us. Okay? I'll put the details out because that's my actual water one to Severn Trent I did the other day. So I took out my personal details, but that is a negotiable instrument paid through the bills of exchange. And the way that's done is, you do not touch the gyro credit slip. And if you looked at the gyro credit slip I showed you earlier on, if you look at this one that's my Severn Trent water one, it's exactly the same. Santander is the corporate bank, Transcash, that's my account, but I've deleted those numbers, obviously for personal reasons. That's the barcode, which is my account, which is my credit, so when the post office swipes it with a scanner, because they don't know anything, that now zeroes back my account. That's how much, they're telling me how much I'm to pay. So you would go and pay it. I haven't, I've paid through the bill of exchange, and what I've done, and it's important to know this, I've done 3 stamps, first class stamps, and I've signed and dated each stamp. When you produce this, you also write a covering letter because you have to include other documents that back what you've done. This is done under the Stamp Act 1891, which makes me the postmaster. So now I own that document. Nobody else owns that document but me. Neither does the judge or anybody. I own that document. So then I write across it, do not touch the bill. I wrote across it, not transferable. So it's only got to go to them. In other words, say if I did some work for Mark, and it's 50 quid, and then Mark says, well, hold on a minute, Kev, you owe me 50 quid, what's the best way I can resolve the situation? Give him his cheque back. And that's what we're doing here. Yeah, because I can't cash that, that's a gyro credit slip, I can't cash that. I can take that to the post office, but they know what it is, but they can't cash it. I can take that to the bank, but they won't cash it. So that's credit to me. So what can I do? Well, have it back. So I give it them back, transferred by endorsement, which now zeroes back my domestic tariff to zero and keeps their accounts and their books in order because I'm non-commercial. So we use the 3 stamps, which makes me the postmaster. We also include within the documents the Stamp Act 1891, the Bills of Exchange, the Fraud Act 2006, because what they did about 25 years ago, they did what you call double dipping. So when you pay it, they claimed on it again. So that's why the stamps go on it, which makes it my document. They can't alter that at all. Then I've included the Protection from Harassment Act, because now what's happening with the warrants, they're harassing us now, really. So we use the Protection from Harassment Act, the Gas Act, Warrants of Entry, Section 2 and Section 3, the 1954 Gas Act. And that's basically it. And that's how you endorse it. If there's any questions? Oh yeah, sorry, I'll read that. Not transferable to Severn Trent Water for payment in the sum of, it's blurred for me to see this, £212, I think that's 50 pence. It's got my name, I've wrote my address out, and it's got my national insurance number on. Transfer this joint, keyword, joint gyro credit slip. Never use bank gyro because they'll twist it. Transfer this joint gyro credit slip by my endorsement for a non-commercial agreement. I've dated it and I've signed it, so I own that now. So basically they just have to zero back my tariff. Some of the time they've got 2 choices. They can either walk away, or they can send it back to you, or they can keep it, really. There's 3, but if they send it back and they keep it, then they're in dishonour, because the key words in the Bill of Exchange is honour and dishonour. I've been honourable, I've shown remedy. I've offered remedy twice now. Remedy through the joint gyro, by the direct debit clawback. I offered remedy there, they just didn't engage. Now I've offered remedy with this, so I'm waiting to see what comes back. I had a letter yesterday, they're taking me to court, so they say, so we'll see what happens on that one. But that's where we want to be. And we're trying to close every door that they want to get us into, and we want to keep that door open at the end, which is the door that takes us into county court. If it goes there, they're finished. And that's why they don't want us in there. I think that's it on that one. Let's see what else there is. Yeah, that's just if you've got notes and you want to jot that down, that's the documents that you enclose. I enclosed a covering letter, and that's the documents I referred to as reference, how I've paid it, and what each individual thing is. So it builds a picture. So why did I use a stamp? Under the Stamp Act 1891, which makes it me the postmaster and I own that document. And they're the documents that I've submitted. Only on paper, I've not physically gathered the documents. That's their reference. If it ever goes to court, I will print the relevant pages off, and that will be part of my legal pack that I will go into court with. A nice good one is Lord Diplock, and it's from the book Archbold, and it's contempt of court. And basically what Lord Diplock said is everybody must have unhindered access to commercial and criminal courts without prejudice. So I stick that one in there as well. So they're the documents that I use for that. Sorry? I can't. Who did you send this to? What, the documents? The Bill of Exchange is worded, yeah, the Bill of Exchange, I just send that back to Eon.
You don't put it in their CEO?
No, when I write letters and when I correspond, I always put the CEO on notice. I never write to PO boxes, always write to the address. You can Google that and get the addresses very easily. As you know, companies are a fictitious entity, so companies can't contract with a man, only a man can contract with a man. That's why you get no name, or you just get a squiggle at the end of the letter. But I Google it, look for the CEO, and I put that CEO on notice. And that's that. Probably on the last section, if there's no more questions, but an easy one. If you get, about your debt collectors and your 3-letter rules, and they come back and they say, oh, you owe it, and they say things, and then we say, well, the debt's been discharged. Have you heard people say that? Because you bought it. Go down to the bills of exchange. And I'll show you where that is with the bills of exchange as well. This is from excerpts of the bills of exchange, 1882. And the key one is section 59. A bill is discharged by payment in due course by or on behalf of the drawee or acceptor. That's another one. And the bottom one is where an accommodation of a bill is paid in due course by a party accommodating the bill is discharged. So when you hear that saying you've already paid for it, they're referring to the bill of exchange. And that one is a third party could pay that amount off, even without your knowledge, the bill's discharged. So that just gives you an understanding, but you've got to try and get the concept of a bill of exchange, and it's a negotiable instrument. I think that's about it really. If there's any questions? No?
Thank you, Kevin. Crystal clear. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Now we have Peter, who's going to explain about parking tickets and why you should collect them and not pay.
Debt Free TV, in association with GetOutOfDebtFree.org.